Welcome to Fort Grit Diamonds in the Rough, where we dive deep into vibrant stories of triumph in Fort Smith. In a city that demands grit, we celebrate the spirit of success against all odds. Join us as we uncover inspiring narratives, exploring the journey, the rough diamonds to gleaming success stories. So welcome back to another episode of Fort Grit Diamonds in the Rough. Today we are here with a special guest, Jay Richardson. Jay, what's going on today, man?
Not much, man. Happy to be here.
It's an honor to have you on the show. Brandon, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm good. I'm glad to be back for another episode. We had Cheney last week and now we got this guy walking in. Can I just say something real quick? You have really great hair.
Thank you.
You have a great hair color. I was like, man, I like a little salt and pepper.
Do you?
Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
The salt.
Well, that's good to hear then.
Yeah, no, it looks good. And he's got the new, are those New Balances, right? Yeah, I like it. I like his style.
Oh, dude,
He's styling.
he be fly, man. You should see him.
Yeah.
He be dressing. He be dressing.
Yes, I'm excited to have you on. We were all, kind of chatting a little bit
Yeah.
and touching on some things. So it kind of was like, wait, let's not talk about it. Save this for the podcast. So
I appreciate you guys having me. I'm curious to know how you guys got started. How did you come up with this?
Okay, so basically it's Fort Smith. Like to me, Fort Smith is really gritty. So Fort Smith, Fort Grit.
Okay.
To me, it's kind of it's hard to. It's kind of either you make it or you don't make it here, like in Fort Smith. As I was doing research on Fort Smith, you can see that we're like number 10 or top 10, like in most miserable cities. I mean, and that's facts, So I want to do a podcast kind of because even saying that there's talent here in Fort Smith.
Yeah.
So like the diamonds in the rough, the diamonds are the people that have that talent. So like I wanted to kind of put them on a platform, like bring them out like
Well,
yourself.
I think
yeah.
I think that's admirable because I think it's important that people realize we do have a lot of talent in Fort Smith.
We do.
Our challenge is retaining the talent that we have. Far too often we get talent and they can't wait to leave or we're pushing people out.
Well, and that's like I remember growing up and I remember thinking, when I would graduate with people, they would leave and I didn't even know where they were going or what they were planning to do, but I just instantly thought they're going to make it
Yeah.
because they got out of here and that was always, it's they call it the black hole, you get sucked into the black hole of Fort Smith, but being somebody who, I was a high school dropout and I was a teen mom, I really had a lot against me, and I could have really fallen into the statistics of being that teen mom
Yeah.
that had to rely on, government help or whatever, which is fine. I will never take that away from anyone, but I knew that I was going to have to work extra hard to be successful where I was at because I couldn't leave. And so I do think that I'm kind of like the not the statistic of women who kind of follow down a really rough path. I own my businesses. So I want to really put that out there that, even though you don't leave and you don't move on, don't discredit what you can be in your town.
Exactly.
That's how I feel.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
perspective.
So let's take it from the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I piggyback off? I want to make sure I
Oh,
get
yeah,
this
yeah.
point out. So when we talk about, people leaving or the brain drain of Fort Smith, Arkansas, I think one thing I think is very valuable. So I tell people it's great to get your degree or
Absolutely.
do whatever, go experience life, but come back.
Yes.
It's a great place to raise your
It,
family. I
it
really
is.
believe so.
My wife and I were gone for 20 years, but we always knew we would come back
hmm
and share whatever we got from all the many places that we've lived. So I like to tell people, specifically younger people like you guys,
Yeah.
you know,
So like what's that like and I agree with you because they say like when you leave your city you kind of find like a different part of yourself somewhere else and you might either gain
yeah,
more wisdom, knowledge or whatever, and you come back and you say you can share that with people.
absolutely. I think you grow. You have new experiences
hmm
you learn more about yourself, right? Because in a lot of cases, when people move off, they're moving off by themselves or with their spouse or with their boyfriend
Oh, yeah.
or girlfriend, and they have to figure it out. When you stay in the city that you're in, again, there's nothing wrong with that, but you've got a built-in support system for the most part. You've
hmm
got either friends, families, acquaintances that you can lean on for whatever you may be missing. But when you have to go out and learn life on your own,
hmm
it is a whole different experience
Yeah.
and it requires so much more out of an individual, in my opinion. So when you do that, now when you come back into an area that you grew up in and uh could be missing certain pieces in order to really go from good to great. You can contribute that, and that could really allow you to leave your mark on the city that you grew up in and that you love.
I love that
I like that.
perspective. I think that's a great perspective all across the
That
board
too,
for sure.
because I moved to Dallas
Hmm.
like I think back in '99, and it was a whole like a big awakening for me.
Yeah.
And like you said, like I did like it did change my perspective
Hmm.
because all I knew was Fort
Yeah.
Smith. And I think you and me talked about
Well,
this
we
too.
talked about it because I mean, even with like the social media now, I have a daughter who will be graduating next year, and they have the world at their fingertips. They can get on social media and they can see these other kids going to college here, or what it looks like over here. Whereas growing up, I didn't have that.
Yeah.
I didn't have, this admiration of thinking anything was outside of Fort Smith. I didn't know. I
Mm.
didn't know that
Hmm.
I could move off here, and it seemed so far away.
Yeah.
It just seems so unattainable. I never knew that, I could travel, get an Airstream, and travel the world and do that. I
Yeah.
just didn't know because it wasn't at my fingertips on a social
Yeah.
platform like they have
Hmm.
now.
Yeah.
And they, even if, they glorify leaving. And I tell my daughter all the time, you always have a home,
Yeah.
but go and see and experience and learn and find out who you are as a person before you settle in one
Yeah.
place. And that's where I failed to do, because I was so young and
Hmm.
had a child, and our family was here, and I needed that
Yep.
that support. So, and I think now that they're able to see more, and that is one thing I think with social media is that is one of the great benefits of that. It
Yeah.
kind of gives our children a little bit more incentive to want to see things, and I hope that kind of deters them from just settling,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think that's an exciting thing for the I want my daughter to see the world. Now, safety wise makes me a little
It
nervous. It's a
does.
little different time, but I want her to see the world. I want her to know that she can, and we can make it happen if that's the case. But yeah, for sure. But
Yes.
I want to know about you. I
Yeah.
want to
I want to
know
know about
about
Jay.
how you got here, Mr. Prohibition. You're a business owner here. You
Mhm.
are, representative of the state. But I want to know what led you here. And I'm hoping by even your energy, if you just guys saw him walk in here, his energy is just, you just seem very strong, like a strong person. I don't know. You just have
Yeah.
this energy, very intimidating. I'm not gonna lie. You're here. So I'm truly excited to see how this. So take us there. Where are you from?
So it's funny. I was born actually in Fort Walton Beach, Florida.
What?
Yeah. So my dad was in the military, which is why we were down there. But I was born there, and quickly moved back to Arkansas because I was born with a birth defect, a heart birth defect,
Hmm.
and came back to Arkansas to Children's Hospital, which I found that my mom told me this later in life that they had only given me like 2 years to live as a
Wow.
child. So it was very stressful for my parents. We moved back home, uh, and in doing that, they're watching me. I'm in and out of Children's Hospital as a baby. 9 months. I can't cry. I can't uh, jiggle. I can't do so many things. So
Hmm.
I can't imagine the stress that my parents were under.
Right.
But
Did they know exactly what it was? Is
I
there a
was
name
born with a.
attached to it?
I don't know what it's called. My mom tells me I was born with a hole in my heart.
Okay.
So whatever that's called.
Like a murmur?
No, it was
No, yeah.
a hole,
Yeah.
legitimate hole. Anyway, long story short, I'm healed and I'm growing up in Fort Smith with my parents. We live on the north side of town, and I attend all the schools on the north side of town and
Hmm.
grow up and build friendships and families.
Mhm.
And um,
Now, growing up with a military father,
mhm.
was there a lot of hardcore structure in the home?
So no, not that I remember. My dad was very easygoing. I don't remember, and my mom was always the authoritarian in our home.
Yeah. Okay.
My dad was, if it was something serious, then my dad would kind of take the reins. But for the most part, it was my mom.
Pretty traditional. Yeah.
Yeah, she worked in the school system as a reading coordinator, so reading was very important to her in our house.
Hmm.
I remember as a kid in the summertime, you can't go out and play until you finish this. Yeah, I'll never forget. They were called Sweet Pickles books, and it was like 12 to 15 books, in this volume that I had to read. Now they now looking back, they were rather thin,
Yeah.
but I
Okay.
had
When you were younger, you're like, "Oh,
yeah, yeah,
this
you
is
can't
so
leave. You
Right.
can't go outside till you read one of those
Right,
books. And
right,
I'm like,
yeah.
geez,
Yeah.
but that was the type of person my mom was. My dad just worked and was pretty solid. They ended up divorcing when I was in junior high school.
Okay.
And then it was just me and my sister with my mom
So
until
take so now having going from a traditional household of your mother and father and now seeming, your
Mhm.
parents are divorced, did you take the role of being the man of the house when your dad left?
I
And was
think
he
I
around
did.
at that time?
I
Yeah.
think I did subconsciously.
Yeah.
I don't think you know what you're doing until you actually do it. But my dad wasn't around initially. So from the time he divorced, my mom, I say for the next few years. So if I was in junior high, he was kind of in and out,
Mhm.
but really back as a solid figure when I was a junior in high school, maybe I think he came back in and was pretty solid. And he and I ended up being best friends until he passed last month. So
Okay, I'm sorry
it's
to hear
been
that. Yeah.
we were really close. So uh, you live and you learn, and
I think it's hard to navigate. I grew up in a household where I never saw my parents together.
mhm,
So it wasn't really anything different to
yeah,
me. And then um, my dad's been divorced multiple times. My mom's, so I
mhm,
never grew up knowing what like a marriage really
yeah,
looked like. So
Mhm.
now that I'm older and I'm married now, I've had to really navigate that in a different direction because I didn't really understand it. My
yeah.
grandparents have been married for 64 years this
Oh,
year.
wow.
And, it's one of those things they can't stand each other. We can't live without each other. So, I've kind of had that, but I can't imagine growing up with, my family in one household and then being in a pivotal time with being, a teenager.
Yeah.
Hormones are going, you're kind of learning who you are, and then your family kind of divides. So was your
Mhm.
mom around or did she kind of have to work double time to
She did. I mean,
afford things and
mom
stuff?
did. She worked a couple of different jobs. It was me and my sister
Mhm.
who kind of had to. I won't say we fend for ourselves because she always made sure we had what we needed.
Kind of a
But there was
latchkey kid a little
yeah,
bit,
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, we walk home from school until mom gets home, and then
Yeah.
a lot of times she would go out. And this was way back when Venture department store was out
I
here.
You
remember,
remember
yeah,
that?
the pictures.
So she used to work out at Ventures, but she, I mean, my mom passed away 2 years ago, or
Wow.
yeah, 2.5 years ago. But but it she when she passed, yeah, you don't realize what you had until it's gone, and that is
Yeah,
such a
true.
true
Such a
statement.
That's
true
very true.
I don't
So
know if like growing up, and I don't even, maybe but I remember my brother because I had a younger brother at the time, and we had different dads, and my mom was a single mom. She
mhm,
waited tables, and there was time we didn't even have a car,
yeah,
but we would live across the street from Jerry Nails. We used to live in
mhm,
those apartments next to Jerry Nails, and when you're talking about, it doesn't subconsciously say I'm going to take the role of the
yeah,
household, but you just kind of,
mhm,
watching your brother make sure the house is clean
Mhm.
and then you kind of realize, we fight all the time,
mhm,
like siblings do. But I
yeah,
remember my mom always saying, one day I'm not going to be here and you
mhm,
guys are going to need each other. And one day it's going to be you two and I'm not going to be here. And when you're young, you're like, yeah, but he's annoying me or he's so,
Yeah.
and then when you're latchkey kids like that, you kind of do, really lean on each other. So was y'all's relationship with your sister pretty strong growing
yeah.
up?
My sister and I were very close during that period of time. Even through my college years, she and I were pretty close. And then it wasn't until after that that she and I kind of drifted apart a bit.
Mhm.
She had her family, I had my family, and we kind of drifted apart at that
Mhm.
point. But now that I mean both of our parents are gone, it's we're still not at the perfect place. I would
Right,
hope
right.
we would be, but hopefully we'll get there one day.
Yeah, I think even in being adults, my brother was an addict for
Yeah.
a
Mhm.
struggling addict for a majority of his life, and he's been
Yeah.
sober now for 6 years, and we're just now getting to the point where like that's my brother.
Yeah.
Like I can talk smack to him,
Yeah.
but I'm 36, so
Yeah.
I do think that things can
Mhm.
mend themselves.
Yeah.
So you're in junior high. Are you an athlete? Are you playing ball? What do you do and occupy your time?
Yeah, so I participated in athletics. So
Mhm.
I played football and basketball and baseball all the way through middle school or junior high into high school, and then played college baseball uh, for that duration of
Mhm.
my college life. But yeah, athletics was your getaway, was your fun,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's where you built relationships. That's where you learned to be on a team. How you just really learn to become a leader.
Do you think
And
sports
just
really helped you with where you're at now in politics? I mean, constructive criticism a
Mhm.
lot from your coaches. I always think that, because I played ball for
Yeah,
so long, like I can work for anybody. Because I mean, especially when your dad was your coach, nobody's going to yell at me as bad as my own father.
yeah.
So do
I
you think
think
that that played into that?
yeah, coaching, hard coaching.
Mhm.
I think coaching is different now, just because there's a different breed of athlete. But
Hmm.
when I was growing up, yeah, you were coached hard for the most part.
Yeah.
For the most
Yeah.
part, and probably, I remember Coach Rutherford. He lived
Coach
around the
Ryan.
corner from my house, and I remember him stopping by the house, picking me up. Hey, you gonna run a quarter, so we're gonna run you gonna run this block, and I'm gonna time you. And I'm like, what? I'm watching TV. I don't have to do this. But he did that, and I hated that.
I
But it
remember
it
Coach
did
Ryan.
make me understand what it means to work hard and not quit. Uh,
Do you were
so
you did you play the boys clubs?
I did.
Which
I
ones did
did.
you
Jeffries.
Jeffries, yeah.
Jeffrey. Stevens was there when I was a kid, but primarily where I lived, we were all at Jeffries. I think even I don't know. But anyway, we were primarily Jeffries. Now I spend time at both. Hopefully the new Jeffries opens up in the next
I'm
week or
most
two.
excited to see my son, being a single mom. My
Yeah.
son's dad was in prison,
Okay.
and I still to this day owe so much of being able to raise my son and the kid that he is because he's 14 now. Because of the boys club,
Yeah.
because they kept him after school and really took them under,
Mhm.
and we went from Evans to Jeffrey. I mean, we played really all over. He would go to Jeffrey's in the summer. Some of his friends were over there,
Mhm.
but they really helped me out a lot, and I'm so grateful that this community has that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't really think that most people understand that what a saving grace that was for single moms like me, because they made sure that he played sports, they made sure that his grades were good, because I'm trying to
Yeah.
make money to support
Mhm.
my family, and they really stepped in. So I was really it really opened my eyes to see what benefits the boys club does have here in our community, for sure.
There was I remember vividly that it wasn't uncommon for you to see, in from my perspective, looking back, uh, on the type of man that I am and my friends and people that I knew growing up. It wasn't uncommon for you to see coaches who looked like you coaching you,
Mhm.
and that made a huge difference. And I didn't realize how big a deal that was till I got older in life. But you had the Buzz Woods, you had the Hot Brays, I mean, you had these guys that when you were a kid, they're ancient, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But they're instilling behaviors in you as a child that you don't understand that they're doing. And
Hmm.
it's great to see how they've passed that on to current coaches that you look at now. You got the Torrance Cummings, you got the Michael Norwoods, you got I mean, it's just a plethora
Mhm.
of guys who are coaching. Kirsch,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Cleavon. I mean, these guys who are pouring out their souls to kids that are young, based on what they receive
Yeah.
coming up. So I think it's definitely been a passing of the baton. Unfortunately, what you see now is, you see, in terms of athletics, moving away from boys clubs
I've noticed that,
and
yeah, and
going
becoming a
more into
citywide thing, yeah.
private sector type of deal. Now, I
Yeah.
will tell you, it is my understanding that the boys club, as an organization,
Mhm.
universally, is trying to move away from athletics and more into STEM
That's
programs,
what I've heard too, yeah.
which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, in neighborhoods and in communities where it was such a vital piece, it's
Mhm.
going to be very difficult to remove that, because these kids could go and play basketball, and what, $25 I think was what it
Yeah.
may have cost, and now you go play uh private game, or the select leagues or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's the $400 to $600
Oh,
to
yeah.
play, and now you're traveling, and it's different. So for parents and single parents who are struggling with not just one but have multiple kids,
Mhm.
trying
Yeah.
to engage in that, can the cost to keep your child
Oh, yeah.
engaged is unbearable.
Yeah.
So hopefully, and what we see now with the Grizzly Cubs and football team that's here in Fort Smith, I think they're trying to venture off into basketball and maybe add baseball at some point. Lee Prince, the guy who's over that league, I think is trying to offer that as an alternative
Mhm.
to the boys club
That's cool.
that people
Yeah.
can do. So
Play travel ball,
Yeah.
and it was like $1,200 just to be on the team. You're not even considering hotel, travel fee, and all that. But it's like I hate that now these kids have the under like in order to play college ball, you have to do that. And I
yeah.
don't really, I mean, correct me if you feel differently, but I don't feel like you can make the college playing here.
So,
Why do you have to go off and we just have great coaches here. We have great resources here, but now it's like, oh well, if you don't play travel ball, they're not gonna even look at you.
I see.
And that's what they've, told me with my son, you got to get him out there. And I'm like, look at how many athletes have come out. Jay Williams, he's
Mhm.
come out of here. I never heard of him until he was in Northside, but I never heard of him as a travel,
Mhm.
playing travel ball and doing all that. I heard of
Yeah.
him being from Northside and the boys club. And so I hope that we can get back to you can be successful here, you know.
I don't think that model exists
I
anymore.
know, but I hate it.
Unfortunately, I think it has gotten to the point to where you have to participate in AAU travel
Yes, and that's where it's yeah.
because that's where and
You
to be
think?
quite honest, I don't even think they pay attention to high school sports like they used
Just
to.
wonder, do they show up with scouts now?
I
And
think
I
they're
had my
doing
dad videotaping me in high school to send it off.
I mean,
yeah.
there's still a few scouts that come out sometimes. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, I think there are some, but what you find now is now with the transfer portal,
Yeah.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
colleges can now. I don't have to recruit high school kids. I can go get a D2 kid who's been playing football or
Mhm.
basketball
That's
for a
that's
year and has an
better.
experience and bring in.
Yeah.
So now what I hear them talk about and coaches talk about is, you know, unless you're a 4 or 5 star athlete, you're probably not looking at many D1 offers.
That's what I've, yeah.
And even D2 offers in some cases
Mhm.
because the transfer portal has become just a recruiting ground that, in my opinion, I don't know how we continue to sustain how that sustains itself
Mm.
based on that and then NIL agreements and all
I've,
these other things. So
these college athletes are making more money than we will ever, like,
Yeah.
it's crazy with all the NIL
yeah.
contracts and stuff.
And that's unfortunate because I think some kids believe that's everywhere. And if you look at the statistics, it's only a small percentage of kids that are making money like that.
Hmm.
The rest of them are making, enough to eat, go out to eat and maybe something like
Yeah.
that. But
Mhm.
it's not a lot, especially when you look at all of the kids that are out there. I mean, it's I don't know. I think that NIL is going to be more detrimental, and I think you'll see
We were
more
talking,
people.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that being the more popular
I think so.
said.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I'm all for paying kids while they're in there. If they're making millions for the university, why not pay them? I
Yeah,
mean,
why
and
not?
I'm not.
Yeah, but do you think there should be like a cap on it though? A certain cap on this? I mean, because now like it's creating, it's kind of messing things up a little bit.
No, I don't know. I don't know why you cap it if we call ourselves a capitalistic society. I mean, you're gonna negate somebody from making money if they can make it.
Well, no, they can make money, but the thing
Why would I
is,
cap it? I
when
mean,
what? I guess I said it wrong. Like for instance, like a contract where they can't leave the next year.
now I have heard. So in a conference I was in this summer, I have heard where you find more predatory contracts being made with high school kids going into college, where uh they'll have an individual say, so you might have Sweet Bay. Sweet Bay
Right.
comes and says, or they have a manager. So you're a manager,
Mm-hmm.
and you see a kid who has an opportunity, and he could go pro. Hey, I'm gonna give you 10 grand for me to be with you, or to sign under this NIL deal. I'm gonna give you 10 grand, but it's gonna carry for 10 years, and part of your contract when you get to the next level, I get a percentage of that.
Okay.
Hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's absolutely crazy. A 10-year deal. I'm only in college for 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And
But
these
I'm
kids have no idea.
and have
They don't.
and you have nothing with me in the NFL or NBA or whatever that might be, and you get a percentage of my earnings.
I get
No,
it. No.
no. I mean that's what we've got to, in my opinion, from a legislative perspective,
Yeah.
we've got to put in some safeguards that protects kids and families. Because if you've got kids who are struggling to eat and parents can't pay their bills, 10,000 looks like a heck of a lot of money.
Oh
And
yeah.
and I get
Oh,
it.
yeah.
And I get it. And like that's why they take the bait and
Yeah,
they do it. I
yeah,
get it.
yeah.
But
That makes
what's
sense.
going on? Like for instance, like with the Arkansas Razorbacks, we can't build a team because these guys keep on like the next year they're gone. they're gone. Like
But but that's been going on. Kentucky showed you that as the
yeah,
game plan
but
years
like,
ago.
well, I mean, like to me, the money like is it's like, well, like this guy is saying, here, give me this over here. I'm going this way.
Mhm.
I
I think
mean,
you have more of that with kids transferring rather than going NBA. Now, when the last few years, the way that you've had kids come into the U of A, they come in with the idea of this is my next step to the NBA. I mean, in my opinion, Musselman has created that culture where you come here, I coach pro ball, I'll get you to the next level.
right.
So kids at a high school that come in that are high recruits, that's their goal. The one that kills me that I think continues to be the challenge is kids that go to a program and then get butthurt because something didn't go their way. Now I'm
Mhm.
transferring somewhere else.
Right,
Yeah,
right. They're
You
not.
know,
yeah,
and there's
yeah,
nothing to hold me back. Whereas it used to be, if you transfer, you got to sit out a year
Right.
or
There was consequences to making those big decisions.
consequences to it. And there's not.
yeah.
I think that's why you see so many people jumping at the drop of a dime. I mean,
Ugh, I feel like it kind of sets a precedence of unrealistic maturity for
mm,
these kids that thinking this is what life's about.
yes.
They're not getting it. But okay, so let's go back to high school. I want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know. See, boys and their sports are. No, I think it's great, and I think this will all connect itself with what you do for a living. But so we're in high school. You go to Northside, right? Playing ball, baseball. When did you start to think about what you wanted to do for your future? Did it click in high school of where you're like, okay,
Uh,
this is where I want to do. This is where I need to be. Was being in legislature, was that always something you had
no,
a
no,
goal?
no, no. I never had a desire to be in politics in my
Mhm.
entire life until I moved back home.
Okay.
Excuse me. But in high school, I mean, I had the same pipe dream most athletes had.
You wanna play
You
ball,
want to
yeah.
play ball. And then I was lucky enough to get drafted in high school, so that took me to a whole nother level in terms of expectation of
Mhm.
where I thought I would be. What I didn't realize is how much I would end up hating the sport that I thought I loved so much.
Really?
Oh,
Is that because you think you were forced to was it
no, I think it was just a matter of, you play college sports and people don't realize the grind that's attached to that, right?
right.
Yeah.
And I had originally, so out of high school, I signed with West Ark, which is a junior college. And the reason I signed with West Ark is because during that time, I got drafted out of high school. If I went to a JUCO, I could get drafted the next 2 years.
Mhm.
Whereas if I went to a Division 1 school, they couldn't touch me for 3 years. So I
Okay.
had to wait. So in
Gotcha.
my mind, I got a better chance. So if I got drafted I know I'm gonna get drafted again, and luckily I did. But that becomes such a grind. I mean, you got to go to class, then you got
Mhm.
to go to practice, then you got to go to workouts, then you got to go to study hall. And man, I'm not having any fun. I
And,
mean,
I've talked to a lot of, I come from a family of athletes. My cousin, she just graduated at Houston. She was a D1 athlete. She was a pitcher. And what I see is like they've been playing ball their whole life. And every day they're told what to do, where to go, what time to be. And then they get into college and they're told,
mhm,
this is your schedule. And then they graduate and it's done, it's
yeah,
over. And then now they're in this life where they get to kind of initially make their own choices and they don't know where to go from there.
mm,
It's like
Yeah.
because you've spent your whole life playing ball, you don't know anything outside, like fishing or hobbies or
mhm,
how to fix it. Like I don't know how to do anything
yeah.
because when it was my spare time, we played ball. We were practicing, we were doing this. So I've always heard that, college athletes, once they get out of college, they're kind of like, I don't know who I am outside of playing ball my whole life because they've
Yeah.
never done anything else? Was that kind of when you got into college and you played, what happened after you were done playing baseball?
No, I was happy to be done playing
Yeah.
baseball. I really
Okay.
was.
What position did you play? Just
I
curious.
kind of bounced around. All through high school, I played shortstop,
Uh-huh.
and then at the college level, I played third base. I played first base. I played in the outfield a little bit.
Yeah, so you're kind of all around.
Okay.
Right?
I kind of rotated around. But I was drafted as a shortstop, and that's the position I love the most out of all of them. But
Oh, so it's the best one on the field. Man.
I
I
think so, right?
I enjoyed it. But I think after I was done playing ball, I was happy to be done playing ball.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really was, and looking forward to what was happening next in life. So,
So you're in college, and what degree are you going for? What is your
um,
business idea at that time of your future?
you
It changes a lot, right? I always think it's
it
so crazy
yeah
when we
it
decide at 18. Like if you asked me what I wanted to be at 18, I don't know. I just
What you
want
want to be at 18,
yeah.
at
man?
18. What did I want to be? I was a mother of a 2-year-old at that time. I think I just wanted to be out at the
Yeah.
baseball fields at UFish chasing all the bulls. Like, I didn't have, like, an idea, like, I had, like, that FOMO mentality because I was going to college playing volleyball. That was my dream,
Okay.
and, I mean,
You play volleyball?
oh, yeah, I was a big volleyball player. I mean, our pictures on the wall at Southside when state champion. Like,
Okay.
I was really good athlete, played my whole life. And my mind just kind of went other places. But today's episode wouldn't be possible without one of our amazing sponsors, Franklin for Life, a trucking company steering you towards success. You want to get a hold of them? No problem. 479-384-1586. Thank you, Franklin for Life. Now looking back, I'm like, man, so a lot of decisions that I should have made a little bit better, but I don't know. I don't know how at 18 anyone could know what they could do for the rest of their life, in my
Yeah, yeah.
opinion.
And I think that's part of college life, right? It's kind of figuring that out as you go. I mean, you go in with a plan. Now, I think there are certain individuals who just know
Yeah,
I'm gonna be a doctor. They
yeah.
just know that.
Right.
I didn't have a clue. I was trying to figure it
Were
out.
you wild?
I don't know if I was wild.
I'm like, there's got to be a wild
No,
streak in you somewhere, Jay. I'm gonna get to it. I'm
I
gonna
don't know if
find
I
out
was
about it.
wild, but I enjoy. I mean, at West Ark, I mean, I lived on campus, and me and the basketball guys, I mean, we had fun.
Mhm.
I hated going to class, but you end
Yeah,
up going, and
Yeah.
yeah. You get kicked out if you don't. I've
but
heard.
yeah, yeah, it was good though. I had a great time in college. I had my best college experiences when I was at Southern Arkansas, and that's when I was playing baseball down there. I was really looking at just finished my junior college and graduated from JUCO, and I'm at SAU playing baseball. No nobody, and I'm really focused on just this is a year I'm signing this year.
Hmm.
I'm leaving. So I'm working out and doing all this, and I run into a couple guys on campus. Say, hey man, who are you? Why don't you come with us to this? And a couple guys run a fraternity. Met these guys, became friends. Now I want to be in the frat life.
Hmm.
Now
Mhm.
baseball isn't that much important to me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play because that's why I'm down here. But man, I really want to go to this step show. I really want to go to this party. Uh, and then I pledged over a fall period of time, and I mean, and now some of those guys are still my friends till this day. So
You got to make a lot of connections and
I did,
memories and stuff like that. Yeah,
I did.
people always ask, "How do you know so many people?" I'm like, "I play ball
You
my
so
whole
like was
life
you
here." They always tend to refilter throughout your
yeah.
adult life. It's
You
crazy.
so like was you a Kappa or Cuba dog?
I tell people we were the ones who started
Ah,
the
okay.
black fraternity. So
Now,
Alpha
isn't there
Phi.
some hand gesture that they just could? What is
Don't
it?
don't worry about any of that.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna
We
say
we are we are Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity
Okay.
Incorporated.
that's
Cool.
awesome.
I like it.
Yeah.
I
So
like it.
yeah, so I joined the fraternity, and like I said, me and a group of bros that we are going on a golf trip this summer.
Oh, that's awesome. So these are
Yeah,
lifelong
yeah, these are
friendships.
Yeah.
friends that you have.
It's for life.
Yeah. I always thought it was really cool, the fraternity. Like, I don't know, it just always seemed like that. The things I've seen on like TikTok,
Yeah,
don't touch me.
in
But
in the
they just have
movies.
like they just have like this brotherhood bond
Yeah.
for life. And so
Yeah.
so taking into your adult life, you meet your wife. Is
hmm
it in college? Is that when you met her?
We were in college. We were in
Okay. Tell us
college.
about meeting her now. If you're in the doghouse, you better make this story good, okay?
Yeah.
You
Uh,
better make it good. She was walking across the campus and her hair was yep.
no,
Make it
that's we were actually in Fort Smith. We were both home.
okay. So
Uh,
she's from here
She's
too.
from here too. And we were both home, and she was with her friend, and I was with my best friend. And me and my best friend had been out that night, and we had stopped at Taco Bell. So I'm inside of Taco Bell. My friend Lorenzo's outside. My wife and her friend pull up, say, "Hey, Lorenzo." They start talking, and I look outside. I'm like, "What? Who is that?" So I ran outside, moved Lorenzo out of the way, and I start talking to
Yeah.
my wife Talisha, my now wife Talisha, and we started talking. Hey, where you gonna be tomorrow? Or whatever. She said, well, I'm gonna go hang out at the park. Martin Luther King. Everybody's hanging out at the park on Sunday. So I go grab my aunt's car, who had an Eclipse back then, and those are like the cool little sports cars.
Good back then, right?
So I grab her car and I go by there, and I'm just fronting like it's mine, and it ain't. And
Yeah.
I start talking to Talisha, and we were together for Well, I am not even gonna say we were together. We started talking back and forth, and then she went back off to school, and then we kind of broke off for a little bit, and then rekindled back within a year, and
Yeah.
been together ever
Would
since.
she, what was her major in college? What was she graduate with?
Uh,
Did
Sociology,
Oh,
Sociology. Okay.
that's what I wanted to do.
and it's funny. So she just now is practicing again.
Okay.
Okay.
So she had taken a long hiatus. We were both in corporate America doing, I tell people we chased dollars, when we
Yeah.
were early on
Mm-hmm.
and moved around the country. I think we moved in our first 16 years of marriage. I think we moved 12, 14 times,
Wow.
Damn.
just trying to look for the next opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But we moved home intentionally. And, she's the executive director of 646 downtown,
646
and
down there.
is now uh, getting back into practicing and counseling. And she's got a passion for children, high school kids
Yeah.
who are struggling.
Yeah.
So that's where her passion is, and we're trying to make that happen.
Yeah.
Dope.
So y'all get married and take us through that. Take us through early stages of marriage. How long have y'all been married?
Be 30 years in December.
Wow.
For 30
I
years?
haven't. I have so many questions. That's a long
That's
time
dope.
to be
Yeah, that's a long
married,
time, man.
and that's a lot of work you have to put into to
Mm.
making it work. So y'all got married. You said that you moved several times. Did y'all have a goal together of like, this is what we want to do before you had kids, or did y'all
Yeah,
have a kid
yeah.
and have?
So right after we got married, we literally had a 5-year goal that we kept on the refrigerator.
Wow.
I like
We
that.
said, okay, this is what in the next 5 years, these are the things we're going to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we had it listed, and we looked at that every day, and we were able to achieve everything on that goal sheet. And then, as we move forward, we kind of got away from setting our goals up again, because I think
Mm.
life, and like the kids say today, life started life, and we
Mhm.
started to realize, what was going on, and how we needed to. I felt the need. I've really got to focus on supporting
Right.
our family. Now that we've got a daughter, I really got to do this, and now we can't do this anymore. I got to do
Mhm.
this. And Talisha was very, very similar from a standpoint of, yeah, well, I've got to contribute. If you're doing this, then I've got to do this, and we partnered very well.
That's great. Yeah.
But man, I
That's
tell
really
everybody,
good.
marriage that's the toughest job you'll ever have,
Absolutely.
and
Hmm.
it hasn't been easy, but it's definitely been worth it.
Absolutely. So, oh, go ahead.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
going back on that, like, do you think if you weren't married that you still would be like, like trying to get like the goals you said you put like in the
Yeah,
refrigerator?
yeah. No, probably not.
You don't
Probably
think so?
not. I was. I don't think so. I think I may have even. Who knows what the hell I would be.
Yeah.
I
You
was
feel like
just
she
trying to.
grounded you
Yeah,
and
yeah. I
guided
was
you.
living life and enjoying hanging out with my buddies, and
Hmm.
doing the guy thing.
So,
But it was good to. And I tell people, man, you can never help who you fall in love with, but when you do, it's up to you if you stay in love with them.
Right.
So me and my wife connected, and man, it had to be. I think that's where I was supposed to be, because there,
got
you have days where you're like, man, what was I thinking? And then you have other days like, man, I couldn't even imagine life without.
So how do you two keep things kindled? Like keep it going. Like what do y'all do? Like any special things?
Man, we are really intentional about vacationing.
But
Hmm.
yeah.
We are very intentional about that. And a few years ago, we felt like we just couldn't get on the same note. Life was life.
Imagine being in politics.
Yeah.
Like that's.
Yeah.
I'm definitely really.
How do you juggle
getting
the two?
Yeah.
Because
So it's good because my wife she's got a good understanding of politics, and she finds interest in it as well.
Well, okay.
that's perfect then.
So
When I think of politics, I think of family. I don't know what it is about when I think of
Family?
politics. Well, it's just because you always tend to, when you watch politics, they have their family so close by and everything that
Oh, you
they
talking like yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so much a part of what you
Mhm.
do. So it's kind of like whether or not, I wouldn't say you have to put on, it's not a front, but like it is in the public eye, your family.
Yeah.
Y'all could probably got into a alter fight in the dressing or in backstage, and then you're on stage, you're like,
Yeah.
"This is my beautiful wife." You've already divorced her 3
Yeah.
times in your head, you know? So trying to find that what it
And
have
I
to be
think that's
ethically good.
true.
Yeah.
And I think that's just true in life itself. But I will tell you, when we were in Phoenix before we moved back, we had consciously another discussed what that looks like. If we
Mhm.
move back to Fort Smith, what are our goals? And we talked about that. And I talked about potentially going into state politics. She wanted to be in local politics. And
Wow.
Okay.
there you go. Now she's
That
on
makes it a lot
the
easier.
school board, and I'm a state representative. But
Wow.
I tell people that wasn't by happenstance. We talked about
Oh, okay.
what that might look like.
Mhm.
Uh,
'Cause I mean, that has to bring some negative I mean, that
yeah,
brings its own challenges within your relationship
yeah,
too.
it's
Imagine if you're yourself there for
it's,
politics. So before we get into that,
Yeah.
tell me about being a father for the first time.
uh,
What that looked like for you as a man who has a when you had a daughter,
mhm.
right? What was that like for you guys? And it did that drive a little bit more ambition in you because now you have this little girl that's looking at you
Yeah,
and you're like, okay, we've got to do this.
yeah. I think for any father
Mhm.
or parent worth their salt, when
Right.
they have a child, it impacts them
Yeah.
in a way that you're scared, you're excited. I mean, so many things, right? And then when you hold that child for the first time, I mean, there is a connection and a bond that's created
Hmm.
from the beginning, and you do feel you do feel more responsibility to how you move forward in life.
Yeah.
I've got to make sure that I provide this because I want her to do this, and I want her to have this, and I want her to have this.
Did your
And
upbringing ever worry you within your marriage about your when your parents divorced? Did that ever cross your mind,
yeah,
like
yeah,
when you were married and now you have this baby? Like, what if because you saw that happen in your life? Did that ever kind of cross your mind
and
of
it till this day,
till this day?
it
Yeah,
still does. I mean, you see some of the mistakes that your parents made,
Yeah.
and you hope you don't make the same
right.
ones, and you try to work not to. It was a funny thing me and my dad would say. My dad would come to me and say, well, Jay, you need to do this at home, and you need to tell Talisha. I said, now, Dad, the one thing you can't give me advice on is marriage.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
because my dad had been married several
I was
times.
gonna ask if he was married,
He
and what did your mom
My
ever
mom
either?
married once
Okay.
to my father, never married again.
Wow.
My father married several times. Uh, and when I had that conversation, we said, okay. And he never gave me
Hey, I
advice
mean,
about it because in theory, I've been married to Talisha longer than he had to anyone of his
Anyone?
wives.
Yeah. Did you ever
Uh,
make a subconscious thought to yourself and say, I this isn't what I wanted? When you married Talisha, were you like, we're gonna thug this out for better for worse. This is what we're gonna do because
yeah.
you didn't wanna
hmm
live that way?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we both felt like that. My wife came from a single parent home as well. So I think we both,
Kind of went in that knowing
yeah,
that
knew
leaving
this
is
was
not
gonna
an
be it.
option.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's I always love to know because I repeated the same mistake,
Yeah.
the history of my mom did. And so and then I have a daughter who's 17 and it's either she just doesn't want to be anything like me,
hmm
which is fine, or she just learned from our mistakes, and so I
yeah.
always wonder if that plays into it. So y'all got married, you had your daughter. Where are you at with business at this point? Are you in politics after her?
No, no, no.
Or are
So,
you right now?
so I've only been in politics for the last several years. So I'm in my third term, so that's 6 years. I'm going
Wow.
into my fourth. That'll be eight at the completion of that. But prior to that, I was not involved in any types of politics. I worked for a couple of companies. I was with FedEx for several years.
Mhm.
I was with another company called LSG Sky Chef, which did airline catering
Okay.
right during 9/11. I was with them, so that changed the whole airline industry as we
Wow.
knew it. I
Yeah.
left there and then was recruited to a company called Syntex Pest Control that
Mhm.
eventually was purchased by Rollins, which owns Orkin and all of that.
Okay.
So I was with them for several years and moved up the ranks and ended up going out and running some facilities out on the West Coast. And uh, Talisha, we were together the whole time. She's following where I was leading. And Talisha worked for an international company called Accor when we were in Dallas, and then in that position, that Accor, they owned Motel Six, Red Roof Inns,
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
all of these. So she was a young one of the youngest VPs at that point as we were living in Dallas. So we were both, in my opinion, moving and shaking in corporations, right? In the
Yeah.
corporate environment. Our daughter was young, living in Dallas, just
Pretty
kind of
fast paced compared to here.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
very much so. So we were in Dallas, just bought a nice house, had a house built, and then I get the offer for Syntex to move to Austin and run a facility down there. So for the first year, I just commuted back and forth. I had an apartment in Austin. They stayed in Dallas, and then
Man,
we kind of commuted, and then we finally
traveling.
everything came down,
Yeah.
and then we were in Austin for a couple of years, and then I got another opportunity to go to Phoenix. So again, Talisha graciously, stopped doing what she was doing, working, left the core. We went to Phoenix, and we were in Phoenix for 10 years. So
Wow.
In Phoenix for 10
yeah,
years?
think that's right. 8 to 10.
She seems like she always trusted your vision.
Yeah, like
She is
she's a
she's
ride or
a
die.
rock. She
Yeah.
she really is. And typically when I'm in public settings, I always introduce myself as Talisha's husband
Yeah. Yeah.
because Talisha is she is a rock. She's a rock star.
Yeah.
And she's
I
been
mean,
advocating for people ever since I've known her, and even more so that since we moved back to Fort Smith. So
She's
she's
always kind of had a servant's heart.
she
Yeah.
man, every city we've gone in, she's found a way to
I
volunteer
love that. Yeah.
and found a way to be active in the community, but always from day one, always wanted to be back in Fort Smith. So that's always been a long range goal of hers. Wasn't always mine in the beginning,
Hmm.
but yeah, I bought into what she wanted to
So
do.
take us to you're back in Fort Smith. How old is your daughter when you moved back here?
We moved back when she was in the 11th grade.
Okay. So she's kind of established herself at a
Yeah.
different high school. Was that a hard transition for her?
So that's the only reason we moved back to Fort Smith
Oh,
because
because
she wanted to
she
come.
wanted to.
So wherever we were at, wherever we lived, we'd always send Yuri back for the summer. So she
Okay.
has cousins
So
and
she had
friends.
friends and people. Okay.
So it wasn't just a brand new thing
Okay.
for her. So she wanted to come back to Fort Smith, and my wife wanted to come back. Before we made that decision to come back, well, I'll
mhm.
tell you something not a lot of people know is we were in Phoenix, and then we were visiting Fort Smith. We get back home, find out that I have cancer.
Wow.
So when we find that out, my wife, who's always the rock of the family, I mean, she was struggling. She needed some support.
Yeah. If you don't
And
mind me asking, what cancer?
a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Lymphoma. Wow. Okay.
Lymphoma.
So
Yeah.
we found that out. I'm trying to think. Yeah, we find that out. We had just had Jag at that point.
So you have, so we talked
Yeah.
about this earlier.
Man.
You have you had 11th grade. Now you have a 12-year-old. So
Yeah,
you started all over.
yeah. And the joke I always tell
Yeah.
people is we find out everything still works.
Works.
But it, and I tell people this, whether you're religious or not, but this was nothing but God in our opinion, because my wife and I, we didn't think she could have kids anymore
Yeah.
after my daughter. So we were actually in the process of going through an adoption.
Wow.
And we had gone through our classes. We were talking about it. We've got these two young men that need a place to come, and we just got to finish out the
Mhm.
classes. Well, my schedule, I couldn't make the last class. I had to be out of town. So we didn't make, so we had to wait X amount of months for the next one
Yeah.
to come up. So I'll never forget. I'm training for triathlon, and my daughter's playing soccer. So they go and I run. I'd get my run in to meet them at the soccer game.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there, and Talisha looks at us, she said, I got something to tell you. I was like, oh shit, what is it? I'm pregnant. I said, huh?
Oh my gosh. And how old is your
You're
daughter
like,
at the
what?
time?
So Yuri had to be what, 12?
Okay. So this
14?
is, I mean, that's still that's a
Yeah.
significant
Yeah.
age
So it's
gap
a
there.
14-year gap between them,
Okay.
or 12-year gap between them. But yeah, so she was out there playing select soccer,
Yeah.
travel soccer. And she tells me this on the side. I said, "Are you kidding?" She said, "No, I said, "Oh,
Oh.
okay." Well,
Did you already have plans of like, man, when she graduates, we're gonna do
no,
this,
we
this, and
hadn't.
this,
Like
or
I said, we were looking at adopting. So
right? Oh, so y'all
these
were
kids
already
were,
planning on starting.
yeah,
Okay.
these were two young men. I mean, kids, babies,
Yeah.
that we were looking at. But anyway, we find out she was pregnant, and then we just focused in on that.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, were you a different parent with your daughter?
Yeah.
And you were, was it because having that your age gap, and you've
I
grown?
think the
Were you
gap has
different?
something to do with, and just having a daughter and a son
Yeah.
has something to do with it.
That too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm much different with my daughter than I am with
Yeah.
my son.
You got to be with the women.
Listen,
My daughter, we've always been super close. Uh,
That's
and
good.
that's the thing. She and I have always been super close, and
she adjusts well with her brother coming
she
in. Was
she
she like, who? It's all about me.
I think she did to a point. I think the thing that got Yuri is when somebody thought Jag was hers
Oh
because of the
yeah.
gap.
Oh, I
So
get
they
it.
thought that
A 7-year-old
oh
brother and a
yeah.
9-year-old brother.
Uh,
Let me tell you some Jerry Springer stuff
yeah.
going on. Because we would all go out to eat, and I have there's 4 of us between the ages of 30, I
hmm
think 32 and 41. And then my dad got a younger, he was
Uh-huh.
went got found him a younger woman,
Yeah.
okay? And so we'd all be at the table, and we'd have this newborn baby, and like my kids would call that baby their uncle, it'd be
Yeah.
Uncle Hudson. And they were like, "Is that your baby?" No, this is my brother. And my dad, he's like,
Yeah.
"It still works." And we're like, "Really?"
Yeah.
But we love him, and I mean, it was definitely a blessing,
Yeah.
to my dad for sure. So you're in Fort Smith. You've got, you got the second kid on the way. Take us to where politics came in your life and owning the prohibition.
Okay. So in terms of politics, that conversation started when our current mayor now just called me up. Hey, I need to talk to you. I said, okay. Where are you now? Well, I'm actually out playing
Did you know
golf.
him prior to
Hmm.
this?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I knew him prior. He and my father were friends. I knew
Okay.
him growing up. I said, I want to talk to you. I said, okay. So he says, man, I'm looking at running for mayor, and I'm wanting you to run for my seat. I said, huh? Yeah, I'm wanting you to run for my seat. Well, at this point, I was like, maybe politics really isn't
Your forte,
in my
right?
in
Mhm.
my yeah. And so he said, well, think about it. Talk to Talisha, see what she says. I said, okay. I said, man, I'm not doing this. So I go home. I said, Talisha, you won't believe what George said. He wants me. She said, absolutely, you should do it. I said, what?
Wow.
Oh,
No, that's not what I was expecting
so
you to say.
she even thought you should do it
Yeah,
then.
yeah, she did. She did. And then so we talked, and hey, well, let's pray about it and see where we. I said, okay, we'll see. So I called my mom. I said, Mom, you won't believe what she said. Absolutely, you should do it. I said, Mom,
Even
do you think
mom
that's the
too.
best thing? I said, have you seen politics today? Do you see how these people are?
Yeah.
She said,
Why do
yeah.
you think that they encouraged you so much? Do you think is it because were you always advocating
They
and
probably
loud
seen
about
something
things?
in
Like
him.
what? Huh?
y-
They probably seen something in him.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like
I would.
everyone's saying yeah. So what was
I have no idea, and they
really?
would have to be the ones to answer those questions.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I know my wife has always been a cheerleader. My mother has been as well, but my mother just always my mother was very very religious, and always felt well, it's a reason God brought you back here, and maybe this is what He has for you. And
hmm
so anyway, we went back and forth, and then George and I talked again. He said, well, maybe we got somebody else if you're not interested. I said, okay. So the other guy he was talking about. So
Mhm.
I kind of stepped back, and then he comes and he says, I really think you should think about doing this. So needless to say, we did. We invited some people over to the house one day, and we made the announcement that we were running. Um, and I've enjoyed it ever since. I think nationalized national politics, sets the tone for people around here of what they think about politics and what they think about politicians.
yeah.
Uh, I will tell you that I am a politician because I engage in politics, right?
Right. Right.
But I will say that I am not the typical, in my opinion. I don't have to get in front and talk to people. I don't have to be. That's just not my thing.
Right.
I'd rather just do the work. And in me doing the work is, talking to people, getting stuff that they couldn't normally get done.
hmm
I mean, I get people who call me, hey, I can't get my passport. Can you help me? We're
Hmm.
leaving town in 3 weeks. And I'm able to help them do that.
Yeah.
Or uh, you have somebody who's, my brother's in prison, and my mother died, and I need to get him home for the funeral, and
How,
we're
like
able
for
to help with
furloughs
some
and
of that.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, or you got DHS problems
Right, right.
with people and their kids. I've got one young lady who called me. We've been working together. I say we're almost friends now, but she called me a couple years ago and says, "Hey, my name is so and so, and the state took my kids, and this, that, and the other." And I said, "Well, man, what happened?" And she just goes off. So she just goes off, starts cussing me out. So I just hang up the phone.
Yeah.
Ooh.
She calls back, "Look, I apologize, but these are my kids." Da 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 da. So I go and I talk to one of her caseworkers that's working. I find out the history about what's going on,
Mhm.
and her frustration makes sense to me. So I
Okay.
understand why you're going off on me. So I call her back and we began working, and we worked, and I've been working with her for the last couple of years. Uh, Unfortunately, we weren't able to get done what she needed
Yeah.
done. But for the first time, she and I met for lunch a few months back, because we've only talked on the phone or via
Yeah.
email, but she
Yeah.
was in town. So we met for lunch, and now she's going to she's about to have another child. She may have had it already, but and she's going to school, wants to be an attorney to help
Wow.
fight for kids'
Yeah.
rights.
Dope. Yeah.
So I'm super proud of her for that. And she keeps in touch with me from every month or so. She'll just, "Hey, how you doing? You know, how you doing?" Because she called me when my mom had passed, and, "Hey, I want to see your mom passed, and I know your
Yeah.
dad wasn't doing well." I mean, and
She found trust in
yeah,
you. She found
Yeah.
yeah,
someone that would listen to her.
yeah, and
So I had no idea, I grew up in, and I'm going to be completely transparent. Listen to politics, but I'm not really into, whichever. I just want what's best for everyone. That's
yeah,
kind of always how I've been.
Exactly.
But I
Yeah.
grew up in a really hardcore Republican side, and like listening to Rush Limbaugh and watching CNN. I mean, and my family was they're from Mississippi. Like they grew up in just very different time, and they were very vocal about this is
yeah,
how it is, and if you don't believe in this, you're wrong. And
hmm
I think it always kind of put a bad taste in my mouth because I'm like, why is this such a like an
yeah,
aggressive thing? I think everyone should have their own opinions. You shouldn't
Mhm.
be forced or whatever. But I had no idea when you're sitting here telling me this story of this woman, I did not know that that was a part of what you of politics. Like
hmm
I had no idea that is what you do. And I'm
yeah,
so glad that like we have this platform to for someone like me, I'm thinking you're just smiling and waving and signing docket and
Right.
just, being that's, some politics are like that. I had no idea that that was what you were doing and are currently doing
yeah,
behind the
and
scenes.
that's the thing. People don't necessarily and then that's what I
And
said.
I don't
People,
understand. I just didn't
and that's
understand it.
and it's a lot of people who don't, right? And part of my deal is trying to explain to people what actually we do. I mean, I've had people call me, "Hey, my neighbor is leaving antifreeze for my dog and trying to kill him." Well, that's not really me. That's
Right,
more of a
right.
city thing, right?
Yeah.
So, but when we look at what happens on a city, on a state level, those are the things that we're involved with, and people, they put us in these positions to represent them. So I take that to heart, that I'm representing everybody. And what I
Yeah.
also understand is it's not just the Democrats that put me in there; it was Republicans that had to vote for me too.
Hmm.
And I understand that when I'm making decisions at the Capitol, not every decision I make is going to make everyone happy,
No.
There's no,
but
I
I
don't
try to
see in
make,
what you do that is ever a place to make
So
anyone
yeah,
fully
but you try to
happy.
make a decision that helps the most people.
Right, right. The majority, yeah.
And
right.
I've been able to write some bills that I think have helped a lot of people, and we've done some good
Can you
things.
share a
But
couple of those that you
Yeah.
I think my one that I hang my hat on the most is probably the bill I've got that I passed that forces law enforcement and now firefighters to have to be mentally evaluated when they go through a critical situation.
Amen.
So right after
Ooh.
George Floyd,
Amen.
we were looking at how these police were responding. And my thought was, this didn't just happen at that point. Something got
Led
that
up to
person
that.
to that
Yeah.
point. So there was, I'll never, it's my seatmate guy who sat next to me was a Republican from a rural area in Arkansas, and he was a
Mhm.
sheriff, and we ended up being really good friends. So I said, "Man, Ken, this is what I want to do." He said, "Jay, that's why I got out of law enforcement." He said, "I saw so much that I became such a mean, irritable person. There's no telling what I could have done."
Yeah.
He said, "But the problem is that we see these things and we don't want to tell anybody because we
Right.
don't want to lose
Right.
seniority or whatever that looks like. I said, well, this is what he said, man, let's do it. So he partnered. So he's a Republican, I'm a Democrat.
Mhm.
We partnered and ran this bill, and I think I got almost 90% of votes out of the House
Wow.
and the same out of the Senate,
Wow.
because of the value in that. And this forces any police officer who goes through a critical situation, is like, a rape, a murder, or
Yeah.
fatality, or anything, they have to be mentally evaluated. And to date, we ran that bill a few years back, but I had them give me some numbers not long ago, and this is one of the best programs that's working with the state police, and they're
Wow.
seeing a lot of people benefit from it. So that's one of the things that I.
Oh,
But
yeah,
I like
but again, people
congratulations.
don't
That's
always hear
amazing,
about
yeah.
those things that you do. So
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
I really so I worked at the psychiatric hospital for several years before I dove into the hair. Actually, that's what got me into doing hair. And so I love that, that stuff has always really intrigued me, and growing up how I did. Of
yeah,
course, I've always resonated, and mental health it was is something that is very prominent in my life, and I come from for both sides, and I've seen it firsthand, and it's not just people that are walking that are homeless. It's still
yeah,
with it. It's people that are law
hmm,
enforcement. It's things of that nature. PTSD is
it
real,
is.
Yeah.
and I think it's really great to give them a safe space to say, "Hey, I'm struggling, but this isn't going to come back on me of that I'm not capable of doing
Mhm,
my job. I'm human, and it's okay to be human. It's okay to struggle from what you've seen,
yeah,
but we also need to make sure that you're taken care of. So when another issue like George Floyd,
mhm,
come about, you're still able to handle it in the productive
yeah,
way that is right,
Mhm.
the right way, and I think that's incredible
yeah.
for you to do that. So with the politics, what kind of if negative have you had to deal with any negative things? Like, I'm sure. Sorry, I guess that's kind of a
Yeah.
double-edged sword
Yeah.
when it
So
comes
so
to
like,
politics.
what were your struggles? Because I
Yes.
know, like, you know, coming into being a politician, getting to where you are now, I know you went through some stuff, just like George McGill went through some stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I
It's hot
think
seat time, Lloyd. Here's your question. You start to run it. No, serious. This is great. You've got great questions. So
no,
do the hot seat.
here's the thing. When you become a public servant, the challenge that you have is that you don't want to impact your family in a negative way.
Right.
And what I found in my last bid, for running, was against a young man, and there were some flyers that came out that were, I blew off, but were very, very offensive to my wife.
Mm.
Right? One says that, Jay Richardson is promoting drag queens to read in front of your kids, and in
Wait.
this, another one had me dressed up like a clown and says
This is
that,
on social media. Is this
no,
what?
these
Oh,
were
this
mailers
was.
that went to people's houses.
Oh, wow.
We still have
Damn.
copies of them, but one of them had me dressed up as a
Did
clown.
you still have great hair as a clown, though?
No, no, that's why I had shaved it all. Yes, but he used the
Hair is
old picture.
great.
He used the old picture. But yeah, so those things really bothered my wife,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so we had to talk through that because she's very mama bear.
Right.
So those are the things that you hate have happened, and
Mhm.
then on social media, it's always going to be somebody who's going to be on the keyboard,
Oh, yeah.
get all this courage on keyboards,
Yeah, but they can't
and
say it face to
And
face.
then
but
how you respond to it, you
and
can't just be like you have to respond to it in a certain way, correct? I mean, how you carry yourself and how you respond to these things
I
Yeah.
matters,
typically don't respond,
which is always the best
You,
way, yeah.
and
you don't entertain it, do you?
I don't, and whether it's positive or negative. I mean, I read just about everything, but what I realize is, man, people feel how they feel,
Right.
and I
True.
can't be offended because you feel a certain way. What I can't be offended if you take unfair shots at my family,
Yeah.
who have nothing to do with the decisions that I'm making in Little Rock. But yeah, I mean, I've gotten some interesting emails.
Did your daughter have to deal with anything at school? Any,
So she was out
all
of
of it
school.
when all
She
that
was in
stuff come
college. She was
okay.
in college. She was
What
at
about your
Arkansas when I was
son?
there. No, my son, my son has his own persona and personality. He doesn't.
You're gonna handle his own, yeah?
He's gonna be fine. And it's funny. And I tell people this, in terms of politics, he's probably more knowledgeable than my daughter
Wow.
in
Really?
politics, and only reason because I keep him with me all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So he'll go to events, or he'll get up in the morning to see me watching Fox or CNN and ask me questions, and we have dialogue. And I say, "This is why this is happening.
Wow.
Dad, what do you do?" So he's been to the Capitol several times where
That's
where
awesome.
people know him.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So you walk around like a little
hey,
politician
he
and
went
shaking
in.
hands and
He's been there with a group of kids. I don't know if it was school or another program, but he was there. And the lady who does all the tours for everybody, Cheryl, she said, "Hey, Jag." And he said, "Hey." So he's embarrassed now. And
yeah.
she said, "Well, I saw Jag. He acted." I said, "Nah, he's not embarrassed. He likes the fact that people know him
We like the
and that."
attention. Yeah.
Yeah, but Jag's a good kid. I mean, God bless us with great kids. I've got a wonderful daughter
Absolutely.
and a
Sounds like you have an
fantastic son.
amazing wife. So tell
Yeah.
us about what your wife is working on here in Fort Smith. What's some things that she's working on?
So her being over at 646, she's done almost everything that you've seen positive happen at downtown.
Sweet.
Whether it's been the unexpected, whether it's been the music series that happens, the free concerts that are
Yeah,
given
yeah.
down there, whether it's been Propel Downtown, which was a whole new development plan of downtown Fort Smith, Main Street, which is a statewide organization that she's worked with, CBI, Community Development, I think it, or CDI, Community Development Institute, that's based in Conway. Uh, she has a name for herself in the work that she's done in Fort Smith across the state and across the country. Uh,
And I know
she's
that makes
been
you so
it,
proud.
it absolutely does.
yeah.
That's
It,
dope.
it it
Yeah.
does, which
Mhm.
is why I typically say, "Hey, I'm Talicia's husband," because she's the face of the family, and I'm okay with that. She's just a phenomenal lady. I'm very very lucky to have her.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure she would say
Yeah,
the same about you, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And it sounds like your dynamic is very much of a team. Like
yeah,
yeah, she's your best friend for one, but like the teamwork and the fact that you two both are lifting each other up and push and then vice
Yeah.
versa
Like a
and
backbone.
doing a lot of change in the community. And I'm so glad that you're speaking about this because I'm learning a lot from you. And I didn't know even though we had resources like this or you were taking care of problems.
yeah.
I mean, if I thought that I knew somebody that was having struggle getting their kids,
hmm
I wouldn't have thought to have
Yeah. I
called
wouldn't
you.
even thought. Yeah.
I would think of having to go through different channels and for you taking that on. Um, and so now you're also a small business owner. I say small, but it's not
Yeah,
really a small business owner in Fort Smith. Tell us about
it is.
Prohibition.
So prohibition is one of the things that I do, that we own downtown.
What
Uh,
made you name it that name?
me and my wife actually went with some friends. We were in Dallas downtown at a bar whose name was Prohibition. And I said, "Man, that's the perfect idea. I'd love that."
Yeah.
And I told her years ago, I said, "Man, I'd like to have a bar one day." So anyway, the opportunity came where the building was for sale, and we bought the building. And
It's a
uh,
nice building.
That's a nice bar. Yeah.
Yeah, if anybody's ever seen it, it
Very.
is a
So
beautiful
it's like a
bar.
speakeasy kind of bar, correct?
yeah, we I wanted to do so many more things. I just didn't have the money to do it. So,
Yeah.
but we try to make it a real cool vibe. We want you to come in and feel comfortable. I've got one of the few that I can think of, just U-shaped bars that force conversation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not uncommon for people who don't know each other by the time they leave,
Yeah.
shared contact information
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
moved on. And I mean, you can sit at the
Yeah.
one end
Yeah.
of the bar and just engage in conversation, and that's
Absolutely.
what I like. And I like the fact that people can come in, and you may come in one night and you'll feel like it's an R&B spot. You may come in another night and it may seem like a honky tonk place. I mean, it's an eclectic group of people that come in. Now we've got some regulars that have been with us from day one,
Hmm.
and they're very supportive, and we try to take care of them. But it's my goal is that we just have a place where people can come and feel comfortable no matter who you are or what you
Right.
do or what you like.
I like it.
It's a
Uh,
great location across the street from the hotels.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
You got because
It's
when I was
great.
in there was several people from
yeah,
the hotels
It's a
coming
nice.
across the street.
It's a nice vibe.
So,
All that.
oh, it's a great vibe. I
yeah.
thought it was, and I like I said, I worked at bars through
Mhm.
school and stuff, and if it wasn't for my patrons at the bar, I wouldn't have
Hmm.
made it. I mean, they
And
tipped me
right.
well, and then now a lot of those people are my clients,
Yeah.
and then they've hooked me up with, other business ventures I've done, and so I do think a bar is always
Mhm.
the way that you tend to get to know people.
And
Absolutely.
I've my vision of where we are now has always been something that kind of connects back to the community, right? So I've had what I used to call was Magic Mondays, and we got away from it. But Magic Mondays was Monday afternoon or Monday evening when we're closed. I just have guys come in, and all we do is talk about what's going on in the community, what type of business opportunities are
Ooh, I
out there.
like
And we
that.
had
So
great
like a really like
conversations.
an underground
Yeah,
speakeasy kind of
yeah.
vibe.
And
Yeah.
it was,
That's cool.
we've had anywhere from 5 guys in there to 25 guys.
Wow.
You still doing that now?
My goal is to get
That's
I
back
cool.
think
in.
you should. I think
That's
that's incredible.
so,
Yeah.
but we got away from that. But we will get back to that. Now we've got, and I do things in the bar that, like, I'm having a job fair in a couple of weeks in the bar where I've got 5 or 6 companies that are coming in, and we're just going to hold a job fair in the bar.
Wow.
Cool.
We've got another networking event that's coming up, and my goal is for our place to be where people can come and connect, and it's more than just a watering hole, but it's
Yeah.
there where you can come and uh, get good conversation. You can make good
You're
connections.
drinking with a purpose.
Yeah,
You know, you're
yeah,
drinking
It's
with a
cool
purpose.
yeah,
because I noticed like some bars is like a neutral ground for
yeah.
both business person and a normal
Hmm.
person to kind of meet
Yeah,
because to me like networking so important.
yeah,
It's very important and like I met most of my people that I work with like out and about
yeah.
like bars just this conversation.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So
So that's
And
the
I feel
goal.
like that's the point when I had been in there, that's what I had felt like and you're right. There is a lot of
Yeah,
diversity. I mean, I've been in there with a lot of the gay community and then, a lot
yeah,
of there it was it that's
it's
actually who
it's
brought
very
me in there. It was
diverse.
a couple of my gay friends and right before they would go down to the show and then you'd look over and it was a different group of
hmm,
people and then
Hmm.
it was very diverse in there and I loved that
yeah,
because I do think that once you get in there, you're all the same.
hmm,
And I think
Right.
you've created that
I
environment
like
for
that.
sure. Yeah.
Now you
Yeah.
do something like on Sundays sometimes, like
Soul
every
Food Sunday
yeah, soul
Soul
food
food. Oh,
Sundays.
yeah.
coming up couple weeks, first Sunday in March.
Okay. Soul
I'll
food
be there.
Sunday.
I'll be
Yeah.
there.
So, real quick before we wrap up everything, you had a couple of great
Well,
questions.
like you pretty much,
Oh, no, 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 no.
you
You've
pretty
got a
much,
couple of great
you pretty
questions.
much,
No, I
you
want you to
pretty much
ask your.
covered them all. I mean, everything I'm looking here, he
No,
talked about already his upbringing. I mean, you pretty much covered it. I see. I think there's one question
there's
though.
one question. Yeah.
There's one. Let's see.
So I don't like this question already. I don't even know what it is.
No, I like
This
it.
one you guys want to ask.
This is
That's always
fun.
the
Well, you tend to, as you're talking, those questions kind of get answered as people talk.
Yeah, I
But
mean, he pretty much answered them.
yeah, you had a lot of great questions. And I love that I have a different perspective now for politics. I do because there's always I would say such a negative
You pretty much
connotation.
crushed him, Jay. You
yeah.
crushed him.
Yeah, a negative connotation when it
It
comes
is.
to that. And almost kind of like a facade that maybe politicians put out there because you're trying to get majority of popular
Yeah.
opinion, right?
Well, I think like local
Yeah.
and national are two
Two
different
different things,
things.
right? But the thing is like I don't really like I said, I don't get in, because I just want what's right to be done
Right.
Yeah.
and it can't be for everybody. You can't make everyone
But
happy,
your
but
your
the
point
intention's there.
is valid, and I think that's something that people have to realize is we all want what's best for most people want what's best for most people, right? We want to do right by them. We want to make sure that we are fiscally responsible. We want to make sure that our neighbors are safe. We
Mhm.
want clean water, safe roads, safe schools. We even though we're
Ooh,
two different
let's
parties.
back up with the roads.
Yeah, that's a problem across the state. I promise you.
No, like so. Okay, so I think you and me talked about it before because I asked you a question about Townsend,
Hmm.
and you said that road wasn't owned by the city. I'm
So that's
confused.
a state highway. Towson is, and that's going to be it's next up to get resurfaced or get some work done to it. Yes.
Finally.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Now I gotta explain to my husband why I have a flat tire every other week. Okay.
So and you had the same. I'm gonna tell you. A few weeks ago, I
It's
was in
really
Little Rock, and it was
frustrating.
the
It's
same
not the
thing.
roads.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. But what I was telling you is that so people think the city's on the hook for everything, right?
Uh-huh.
Now, but some of the roads we consider regular. Rogers Avenue is a highway.
Okay.
Really?
That's Highway 22 is
Yeah.
Rogers Avenue.
So okay.
So some of those things, the city,
You
it's
can't.
up to the state to help maneuver and help them work through fixing some of those
Okay, see,
things.
like I guess I didn't know that
Yeah.
because I'm thinking everything in the city. Like if it's in
Yeah.
the city, it's hey,
Hmm.
let's get this
Mhm.
fixed.
Yeah. Because if you pay attention, I'm gonna tell you how you know. You pay attention. Where do you see troopers?
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm
Yeah,
Rogers
that
Avenue.
makes
Yeah.
sense. So what is one I do have a question for you before we wrap this thing up. What is one misconception you think people have about you as a politician
I won't even say as a politician.
or
I
as a
think just as
person?
a person, I
Yeah.
think a misconception that people have of me is that uh, either I'm an ass, I'm an arrogant, or any. I hear those things in the wind all the time. And what I think people think is that they don't know me.
Right.
So when I walk into a room, I just walk into a room, and people are quick to make decisions.
Yeah, you're
You
very
know,
intimidating. I'm
uh,
not in a
and
good way. I just like,
but that's what I'm saying. Some people can take based on how they feel, and then they put a label attached on you based on that, never having spoken or said anything.
mm,
Mhm.
And then because they put a label on you, now I'm telling my friend, well, I met him one time. Well, you didn't meet me. You saw
right.
me
Yeah.
somewhere. And I may not have seen you, but I'm this because I didn't come and acknowledge you, which I get often.
Yeah.
Where I saw you or something. Man, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Yeah, it's
Or I
You have
was
that
tied
tunnel
up
vision.
and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
couldn't get to you because I've got several other people. Now, my wife has helped me with this because I am very introverted.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, which is, an oxymoron compared to being a politician, I'd much rather be by
I thought,
myself.
yeah, I was like,
And
introvert
yeah,
politician.
yeah, and I don't have, I mean, I go to events and stuff like that, but I am really stretching out of my comfort zone
Yeah.
to be in those events because I'm uncomfortable around a lot of people.
yeah.
Uh, but it's forced me. She's helped me get past that, and even being in the bar has helped me with that too.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because they
Because
let you see the face of
they
everyone.
do,
They
and
do.
it's easier to walk
Yeah.
up, and I start walking and talking to people and try to make people feel at home, and that's helped me. But I think, and people think that you don't do anything when you're in politics. As a state
Well,
representative, I can promise you, I work often,
Mm.
long and hard.
Your phone's been blowing up on
Yeah.
the floor the whole time you've been sitting here.
Yeah, and I mean, I just got back from Little Rock on Friday, but in that week, I went through several meetings where we were trying to determine how we're doing performance reviews for state employees, to where are we on gun laws, to, I mean, just everything that people don't necessarily see, but we're making decisions, and I'm trying to stand up for not just North Fort Smith, but Fort Smith in general,
Mm.
about things that impact us that you don't even realize.
right.
That's why I continue to tell people Arkansas is at the bottom of the list in terms of voter turnout.
Wow.
Hmm. Why is that?
That's a good question, but if you talk to people randomly, everybody's got an opinion about what's going on in politics.
Right.
They
Yeah.
may not understand it, but everybody's got an opinion.
Hmm.
Well, why is this? Why is this? Well, why don't you vote?
Yeah.
So
Or why
if
don't you
if
run? If you want to make
or
change,
why
get up
don't
here
you
and
run?
watch you run. Yeah.
So there is the opportunity. My last election, um, I represent 30,000 people roughly, is in my district, and I think we had maybe 8 to 10,000 people voted in the last election,
Wow. So,
which is up a bit from where it
Yeah.
was. So I tell people, man, even if you don't understand politics, you understand where you live, right?
Right. Right.
You
Right.
understand the taxes that you pay. You understand the roads you drive on. You understand the schools your kids go to.
yeah.
Mhm.
All of those things are driven by policymakers in Little Rock.
Okay.
So if you don't know, reach out. I tell people, call me, see me, ask me, whatever. I'm happy. And I try to make my decisions based on the people that put me there, because
Mhm.
that's who I'm accountable to.
Right.
Uh, so I try to operate that way.
Okay. So what's next for you? What's
That's it.
next for you? Just that. That anything big coming up in the community that we need to know about? Anything we need to be aware of?
Uh,
What do you want to encourage our viewers to
you got an
participate?
election coming up,
Yeah. Okay.
March 5th.
March 5th, yeah.
March 5th are the primaries,
March 5th.
and those are coming up. And here's another, again, don't don't let national politics deter you from being active in politics, because the big pieces that affect you, all of us, every day, the judge races that are here
Mhm.
in the city, justice of the peace. To me, justice of the peace are the most important
Okay.
of all. They hold the purse strings of the city.
Okay.
And people think a justice of the peace can just get people married.
That's
No,
what I thought.
they're funding our jails.
Okay.
They're running the budgets of the area. Those your state representative, your state senate. These are those are your school boards. Uh, those are positions that impact all of us immediately, and where you can reach out and touch somebody. I mean, currently you've got myself, you've got Cindy Crawford, you've got Zach Gramlich, and then the senator is Justin Boyd. All four of us represent Fort Smith,
Okay.
and all four of us are accessible uh, to answer questions, to send emails, to do whatever. So if anybody's trying to send me emails, jay.richardson@arkansashouse.org,
All right.
and get that to me.
Okay. What are your socials, or do you have social, or where can they follow you online to see what you're up to?
So I'm trying to get better about socials. I'm
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
But J for 49 is the Instagram, and I'm trying to think of what my Facebook is.
I think it's
Jay
Is it
Richardson.
J State Rep
State
Jay
Rep,
Richardson?
yeah.
I think that's what it
I
is.
think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, State Rep Jay Richardson.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you so much for coming, Lord.
Yes.
What you got for him?
That's about it, man. I mean, you pretty much answered everything I had kind of written down. I mean,
Okay.
as you were talking, you kind of like picked points. So
Well, good.
We
I
really
had a great
appreciate you
time.
taking. Yeah, I appreciate you taking your
it's
time.
been an
And
honor.
Hey, I
yes,
will. One thing before we go, I would tell any of your audience, listeners, viewers, or what have you, shop and support local.
absolutely.
This local podcast, our local businesses,
Absolutely. Yeah.
other
Yes.
podcasts, other businesses, people. These are the ones that are the lifeblood of our community and our city. And if we don't support them, they will begin falling away and falling apart. And then we'll complain about what we don't have.
Oh, at that part.
Hey,
Thank you.
I class.
Thank you. That
Great.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, it was
That's
such an honor
that's
meeting
facts.
you.
That's
Your
facts.
vibe is great. Your energy is great. Your story is amazing. Shout out to your wife. I mean, we probably need to have her on. I'm sure she's got a lot to say too.
She would be amazing. Yeah.
And and your daughter has her business.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us a little bit
Rich
about that.
Creations. Rich Creations
Formerly known
specializes
as what?
as Bliss Cupcake.
That's what yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that name.
Yeah.
So, yeah, tell her the name of that and how they can get a hold of her.
Oh, Rich Creations. I think that's her on Facebook and Instagram. But she specializes in custom cakes, cupcakes, and macarons.
And they're damn good too.
Yeah, I've seen. Oh, yeah, I've tried them. They're
And,
amazing.
like, I think she made like dog treats too.
She did make dog treats. I don't know if she's still doing that or not though. But yeah.
'Cause I told someone like a week ago.
Yeah.
They were looking for like a birthday cake for the dog.
Yeah, she does.
I told them to go to
She,
Bliss.
I'm sure she can still do it.
Yeah.
You just go to Rich Creations. I'm sure she can still do
Okay.
it.
All right.
Local.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see what you have in store for our community. And thank you for educating us. And we hope to have you back to the show. Yeah.
Enjoy.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you again. Lloyd, send us out.
Yeah. No. Thank everybody for watching and like stay tuned for the next coming episodes. Again, like we just did one with at the Chris Cheney. So we got part 1 and part 2 out right now. Be sure to follow, like, and subscribe. Thank you.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Today's episode would not be possible without our sponsors. Today's sponsor is Stainless Innovations, Designs, and Fabric Custom. It's an equipment for front and back of house food service faculties across America. Headquartered here in Fort Smith, Arkansas. To get in contact with them, 479-783-1900. Stainless Innovations, thank you for sponsoring our podcast for today.